What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Breakdown Sportscast. I'm your good friend and host, Kory Willis. I hope you all are doing well on a Monday. Hope your weekends were filled with fun. I hope you guys are, catching up with March Madness right now. Getting closer and closer to the Final Four. So overall, I hope everyone had a great weekend and watching some college basketball, men's and women's. It's been fun. I can honestly say right now. So overall, guys, I hope you all are doing well out there. As always, guys, we appreciate you all listening to the show. You know where to find us. We're on many different streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Amazon Audible, iHeartRadio, and many other streaming platforms out there. So if you like what you hear from the show, from Chris and I, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to the show. It's definitely important for us, guys. It helps us know what we're doing correctly and how we can improve the show for the future for you all. So as always, we very much appreciate you all's support with the show. As always, guys, you know who I'm with. I am with my good friend and co-host. He is Chris Bolton. Chris, what is going on, my brother?
What's going on? What's going on, man? I'm feeling good, doing just fine. Trying to get through this off-season period. It's tough. College football is near and dear to our hearts. That's why we're here recording during the off-season. So I'm getting my fix in with all these other, sports going on. Of course, I love my hoops. Like you said, March Madness. It's been crazy. We got NBA, wrapping up the regular season. Baseball just, started back up. So, I mean, it's a good time if you're a sports fan, but I would be lying if I said I don't miss, college football, because I definitely, that's our baby right there.
Absolutely, man. Hey, I know. I would have been remiss to mention, opening day was just a couple of days ago. So, you're excited. You're doing great things on MLBBro.com. Of course, folks, if you've seen Chris's work there, he does exceptional work, him and his team over there. Yeah, man. Look, this is that sweet spot where we have a ton of sports going on. Yeah, we're not having college football going on as much, but still things that are still in the ether, still things out there in the open for a lot of college football fans to nibble off on while they're enjoying their March Madness and opening day in the MLB and
everything. Yeah, no, for sure. Like you said, it is that sweet spot, that time. And look, you talking about baseball, Aaron Judge, he's just been bananas to start the season off already, Kory. 3 home runs in one game on Saturday, and then had another one on Sunday. This man is a freak of nature.
The man mad, man. Look, he saw what happened last year. He's like, look, man, I am going to meet LA again.
Yeah, he said we want the smoke. So I guess they're going to give everybody a beat down this season until they make their way back from playing in the World Series. But that's what it seems like. Hey, I ain't mad at him. So, but I'm sure it all started in the off season, and we're about to get into some stuff that starts here and now that builds up for August.
Absolutely, partner. Yeah, folks. The off season still going strong in the world of college football. Of course, we had the combine that had finished up several weeks ago. Pro days, I think, are under swing now. So we're getting ready to see some of these guys that you didn't see, or you did probably see in the combine, perform at their pro days as well at their respective colleges. So that's going to be a great time, Chris. We'll get to see people like Shadir Sanders. We'll get to see, the Travis Hunters of the world. The whole nine, all of these great talents that are moving on to the NFL. We'll get to see these guys, either getting another opportunity to showcase their skills to NFL scouts or doing that for the first time. So it should be special.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, it should be for sure. Ready to see where some of these guys that we've been keeping up with, where they end up in the draft. What franchise gets the chance to take in some of these guys, and we've been saying that they Sunday guys. Well, now it's time to finally make it happen on Sundays. But we got some future Sunday guys too. We'll be highlighting throughout the rest of this off season.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a great time for sure. And yeah, man, I think that's a great way to segue into things, Chris. Where me and you were kind of talking about this the last couple weeks as we were preparing for today's show. Spring games, you know that time of the year which we're in right now. We get to see a lot of our favorite teams out there, folks, perform on the field with their teammates during the spring season or session. So they're out there practicing right now each day, just getting ready to showcase to their coaches, who's going to be placed into the depth charts before we kick off a brand new season of college football. This is an important time for a lot of teams. So with that, Chris, we've seen some teams, for instance, several weeks ago we found out that the University of Texas, Steve Sarkisian, head coach down there, decided that his team wasn't going to have a spring game in Austin. So I myself that lives here was very interested in seeing the pre-stages, I should say, to the Arch Manning era. I mean, we are in that era of Arch Manning being the brand new quarterback of the Texas Longhorns. Look, I understand people are going to see that they're just playing against their teammates, but people want to see how he's progressed. They want to get an idea. Spring games do bring that, and now we're not going to get that. It started to cause a reason for concern with a lot of fans now, Chris. Do spring games matter anymore to college football? Can we save spring games? Like, what are your thoughts so far, Chris, about all of this? Because now I'm kind of concerned with all of the changes in college football. This is one of those things where I was always excited about to see with our teams, us being Mississippi State fans. We're excited to see a lot of new talents coming into the program. Overall, what is your thought process about this whole situation?
Yeah, man, I really was looking forward to seeing, in Arch, and just the Texas team in general. There's been some turnover on the roster. Of course, with Quinn leaving. You also, it's going to be some of those younger receivers. You bring back a Wingo, seeing how his game has elevated. Was looking forward to that. But it is what it is. I think this is just a product of where college football kind of is in 2025, where you may have some coaches that kind of want to keep some things covert, in-house. There's certain things that the media is allowed to see during the off season. You're in for the first 10, 20 minutes of practice, and then when after your availability is over, then we get into the real meat and potatoes of spring practice. So this is kind of just how it is nowadays, Kory. So it stinks, but it leaves a lot for us to be looking forward to when we do make it to the end of August, early September.
Yeah, I definitely get what you're saying, and look, I get what the coaches are saying. Someone like Steve Sarkisian, who has a wide playbook. We saw it this past season. I'm sure he's been cooking up some stuff that a lot of your media would like to bring the cameras in, Chris, and get a whiff of. They want to get a taste of what we could see next season in Austin. But a lot of coaches, not every coach, but there are a lot of coaches that are very tight knit with the program. They would rather, if they had it their way, regularly, and I guess we can say for Coach Sarkisian, he's one of them. He wouldn't allow us to be like even near the door. We wouldn't even be in the cafeteria. Like what y'all eating on, what y'all nibbling on. That's getting these guys the nutrition they need to go all 4 quarters and beyond to win these football games next season. So it comes with the territory of being a college football head coach, Chris, where you want to keep things very close to the chest. Maybe they have some things and some things in place where they don't really want a lot of the fans and the media, of course, to see right now before the season starts. So they rather to in order to keep the media and football nerds like ourselves away from the team. Of course, they rather just shut the doors temporarily and tell us to come back when the actual season starts.
They definitely would, but and you do have some other people though who aren't shy. I think this is almost the perfect transition into this talking point, Kory. We have the Coach Primes of the world, Deion Sanders. He's trying to give us a full blown game for the spring, like against another team.
I love it. Which segues into, is it wrong for the fan base, or the media, everyone, to start questioning about how do we make spring games more appeasing to a lot of coaches, to the media, and to overall the liking of college football. Like you said, Deion Sanders of Colorado a couple weeks ago came out on social media and was pretty much like, hey, we would like to play against another team. And out comes Syracuse and their head coach, Fran Brown. He came out and pretty much challenged Coach Sanders to a spring game, a potential full spring game between Syracuse and Colorado. And just a couple of days ago, Chris, that was shot down by the NCAA. The NCAA elected to not have these two teams proceed with doing a spring game. So that now kind of creates the whole question on, does the NCAA care about spring games? Do they care about potentially seeing more and more coaches wanting to bow out of spring games? And what does that do for the fan, the college football fan that wants to see their teams play? Yes, I understand we just went through a rigorous season that also had the 12-team playoff, the inaugural 12-team playoff. But you have to understand, though, Chris. I'll let you speak.
No, go ahead.
No, it's one of those things where, yeah, I understand it's rigorous, but think about more of the, I guess you could say, appeal of having a full-fledged spring game of college football with two teams. Think about, I don't know, maybe there's a certain amount of teams a year that can try to put their names into this like system where you have like this, I don't know, like they all have, each team has a game against the, maybe you could do something where, and I thought about this, maybe the first team that you play before the season starts, you have a spring game against them, and depending on who wins that spring game would depend on, I don't know, is, do they get home field advantage or not? Whatever. You can make this fun. You can find out ways to make this more appealing. But the matter of the fact is I think the NCAA is doing a disservice to themselves by not listening to someone like Fran Brown or Deion Sanders and saying, maybe we need to start being around and helping innovate the spring game system. If guys are just going to, teams are just going to opt out and not even give their fan base a spring game. Well, maybe I'm a little bit out of line, or maybe I'm a little out of pocket, Chris. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it definitely, would be beneficial for the NCAA to work with the universities and see what we can do in regards of regulations for implementing new spring games. This head-to-head idea or a home and home for if we're going to do Colorado at Syracuse, and then have Syracuse at Colorado, or vice versa, whatever it is. So I think that would be great. I think this is something that, with them denying it this year, I think it sets things up for next year for things to be a full go, because then everybody can get on top of setting things up this year for 2026. So if Oklahoma and Oklahoma State spring bedlam, I think that would be huge, because we're not getting that game anymore. So if you can have that game in the spring, the money that's raised selling tickets could be big and beneficial for NIL. I think there's a lot of different things we can do, especially when it comes to regional rivalries that we sometimes don't get anymore because of how college football has grown, how money hungry of the league that the NCAA has become, to where conferences don't make sense anymore. So if we can bring back some games we normally would get when things were a little more regional based, I think that would go a long way for it, and the fan bases would love it as well, and they get the people into it. Nothing gets the people into games more than rivalries. That's what we love, especially in something that's college football. College football is nothing. It's all about your fan base, bragging rights, trying to walk around being proud of your team. So that would definitely get the people going. And I think it would be a plus and would be very beneficial in this NIL era for teams to be allowed to play one another and make the most of these spring games, to make the most of what is needed to compete in college football now. And that's to have a NIL fund that can support bringing in players and recruits and transfers.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail right on the head, Chris. I think, doing something like that in the future would definitely help with the popularity with college football. It would definitely help with NIL and just the overall landscape of, just making money in general with a lot of these schools. So, like you said, we're losing rivalries when we're not having a game like Bedlam anymore, which is sad. But imagine having that game as a spring game. Oh my gosh, it's not in season football, but it's still the rivalry that you can have, and you can have it as a spring game. On top of that, Chris, doing something like this can also bring the best out of a lot of these players on these teams that they would tell you they probably wouldn't even have gotten much of a shot if it was for the spring game. Usually, a lot of these guys walk-ons or guys that are low under the totem pole in the depth charts. Usually, the only time they have is the spring game to showcase their talents. That's it. What if we had a world where we can really put some more stakes in this and see a lot of these great guys that are trying to live their dreams go out here and compete against one another? That would be revolutionary for college football.
That's a great point. I mean, because now we're getting questions answered that coaches normally don't get answered theoretically until the first game of the season. Until late August, early September. But if you can put some of these guys in a situation where it feels high stake, and it is high stake because it's your in-state rival that you're going against, or just whatever kind of situation it is that makes it really bring that dog out of you. It reveals something from your players that's big, that's huge, and you're getting that in April. Essentially, I mean, compared to having to get it in August. So if you can get an idea that's so early and continue to build the team off of the data you get from that ball game, this could be very beneficial for coaches.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Chris. So I hope that hearing the news about the NCAA knocking down Dion and Fran Brown's offer to do this. I hope this isn't like we'll never do this. That's it. We won't even allow ourselves to look at this with other teams. I hope that this potential outcry from the audience, from the crowd, and just the fan base can help heighten up this potential outlook on hey, let's look back at this and let's see if maybe we can do something. I hope that this isn't the end, because I think the fans want this, and I think that this can be beneficial for college football and for these players out here that are all jockeying for just a seat at the table, a chance to be on their team, a chance to show their coaches that they can belong on these rosters. You got a lot of guys out here, like I said, that don't really get that opportunity. What happens when you can give them a shot in the springtime to showcase their talents? That could help. That could help so much, where you see organizations like the USFL that's looking for talent. Maybe you're not going to be with the ones. Maybe you're not going to be the number one quarterback or the big time wide receiver out there for your team, but that doesn't mean that you didn't have any value towards the team that you're at in college and potentially in a semi-pro format.
Right.
It could be a lease on life.
Yeah, no, I agree, Kory. I do.
So it's interesting, man. We'll definitely, keep our eyes out on what can happen with the whole world of spring games, Chris. But it's something that I love watching each and every year. I have since I was a youngin, just watching all of these spring games and witnessing your next stars in college football. So spring games to me are very vital, very important for the college football fan and just for college football in general. And I hope it isn't this thing where it just goes away and fizzles into the sunset, because that would be sad.
Yeah, it would be very sad. So let's get this together. Let's get this figured out in NCAA.
Yeah. Let's get this show on the road and see what we can do in order to make spring games great again. I don't know what the term is. But hopefully it's not the beginning of the end of the spring game in college football. So we'll see what happens. But but yeah, man. Anything else you want to add about spring games before we move on to a great topic that you want to kind of discuss?
No, sir. I have nothing else to add.
All right. All right, folks. Well, another topic me and Chris was talking about, of course, as we were prepping up the show, and we were definitely on board with this, and I know you guys are all eager about the future of college football heading into this season coming up. Is predictions. Well, a lot of people out there, themselves, Chris, having Monday morning quarterback sessions with each other, at the water coolers about, who's going to be one of those 12-team playoff teams in college football next season. So me and you were talking, and we have our predictions, of course, and you decided that you were going to give the people what they want. You're a giving guy, Chris. The Bolton's bets early preseason or early playoff predictions for some of the teams out here, and you were looking to start with the ACC, of course. I mean, we're at 4 conferences now. The Pac-12 doesn't want to hang anymore. But to start out, the ACC, which had a phenomenal and controversial season. It was all over the place for some of these teams, even some of your favorite teams out there, folks. Particularly to start out, you wanted to look at the ACC, and I think that's a great way to start. Some of your potential teams that can, squeeze into that 12-team playoff format. Chris, I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor, sir. What are you looking at right now? Let the people know what they should be looking at in terms of potential teams in the ACC, because it should be a loaded seat at the table for teams jockeying for that position.
Yeah. The ACC isn't looked upon as a conference that's predicted to, produce 3 or 4 teams, lock them in to the playoff. That they aren't looked upon as a Big Ten or an SEC with the potential for 3 to 4 teams. But when I looking at the conference, there are 4 teams that come to my mind that pop out, that we look at, and I see them as, they all have a pathway. And there's a potential 5th, but I don't want to mention them, but I just might at the very end. But, just to say we said it, but it's not, I don't feel it, but we'll get there. But first and foremost, Miami is a team that I'm looking at as they were right there in the mix this season, Kory, this past season. With Cam Ward, Mario Cristobal had his best season to date as Miami's head coach. And I know they're losing some pieces. You're losing a Restrepo, you're losing Cam, but you do have some guys coming back, and the way Miami has recruited and continues to recruit. They bring in Carson Beck at quarterback. I think this team is set up with the athletes at Miami and Carson Beck. Say what you want to say about Carson Beck. You give him some athletes, you give him some weapons. He looks pretty darn good, Kory. We saw what he did with Brock Bowers and Lamb McConkey. So hey, you give him some guys to play with, he can make some shake. I think Miami's in position as one of those teams that is. I would not be shocked at all if they were in the playoffs to represent the ACC.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I mean, they made it oh so close this past season to make it into the inaugural 12-team playoff. Didn't get there, but Mario Cristobal he is he's been fuming since that moment where they got knocked out of playoff contention. He's trying to do anything and everything to make sure that this team can make it to that point. And I think, having a guy like Carson Beck, and, they had a great recruiting class as well, bringing some weapons out there for Carson Beck to, give the Birdman a hand rub out there for him to go to town on. I think that's beneficial for a guy like Carson Beck and overall Miami. So I think you're definitely right. Sky's the limit for this team. They have every right to make sure that they can create a great narrative for themselves this coming season to get into that playoff. So we'll see what happens. They still got to play on the football field, but getting a guy like Carson Beck is a good start.
Sure, for sure. And next, I look at Clemson. So a team bringing back a lot of talent at the right places, at key places. Your starting quarterback's Cade Klubnik, highly talented recruit in his recruiting class. Well, hey, man, this is, if I'm not mistaken, Kory, this is Cade's senior year. It's do or die now. So he made a leap last year. But if Clemson is going to be a playoff contender and a team that, wants to get back to what it once was and actually winning a championship, Cade Klubnik's going to have to be every bit of that guy that they thought they recruited when they brought him in coming out of the state of Texas. So we're going to need another significant leap. And he's going to be an all-conference quarterback and potentially an All-American. And if that's the Cade Klubnik that Clemson gets, Clemson very well is a team that you'll see in the playoff as well.
Yeah, I think they have an opportunity to get back into that 12-team playoff. They gotta, I say they gotta have a better showing at finishing some of the games that a lot of us thought that they should have took care of business of. They got to make sure to do that, but they got a couple of good pieces on defense as well as offense.
That wide receiver room is loaded too.
Yeah, the wide receiver.
Brian, let's go.
Yeah, right. So I think I think that they have an opportunity to be a really good football team, depending on if they can handle their business. Which was a thing with Clemson last year. If they can handle their business and beat some of the teams that that we know that they can beat, I think they'll be fine. And then defensive wise, they loaded up a little bit on defense. Have the number one player in the state of South Carolina, Amari Adams, plays on the defensive line. He's going to be probably one of those day one guys. Clemson too, so you're gonna see him. So it's gonna be interesting. We'll see definitely what happens with Clemson.
For sure. And we can't leave out SMU, the team that did win the ACC conference championship game this past season. Kevin Jennings coming back at quarterback for SMU. This is a team that's there in Texas. So many players come out of the state of Texas. Yes, a lot of them go to Texas or Texas A&M. Some may even go to an Oklahoma. But there's so much talent within that state that you get some gems that fall through the cracks. And I think SMU is taking advantage of some of those gems. And now that this team is in the ACC conference, they'll continue to recruit at an even higher level. So I think we have to include SMU as a potential team. I don't think last year was a fluke. I think this team can really be kicking with something here, Kory.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think that this team was a fluke at all. I think Rhett Lashley, who is a really good coach, who has cut his teeth through the SEC, particularly in places like Auburn. He's seen some of the best defenses in college football over the years. He's going to bring his best, and he's going to make sure his guys are all ready for the season that's coming this year. So I think it's good that the quarterback is coming back to this team, and also bringing in some pieces as well. So we'll see what happens with SMU this year, but I won't rule them out because I don't think last year was a fluke. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And the fourth team that I look at as a potential playoff team, and this might catch some people by surprise, but it is our job to look through all the possibilities, Kory, to go up and down these conferences and then look at possibilities, because nobody, unless you were just a college football junkie like us, a lot of people didn't see Mississippi State popping off in 2014 unless you were just in the know. A lot of times people didn't see Utah popping off unless you're just in the know. There is the world that Georgia Tech is a potential playoff team and representative of the ACC conference. This is a team that, if you look at just its trajectory, I mean, last season they were tooth and nail to the wire with Georgia. This is the team that handed Miami its first loss of the season, and then it started to derail the Miami train. This is a Georgia Tech team. They have been rated a little bit by some teams. You lose a Singleton at wide receiver, but head coach Brent Key, entering his third year with the Yellow Jackets, I think they're ready to do big things, and can really surprise people. And they have a very favorable schedule. So, you look at this roster. Look at some of the guys they have coming back. You have a Haynes King back at quarterback, and we know the playmaker he is, Kory. You know what I mean? How he's not only a threat with his arm, but with his legs as well.
Yeah. Very dangerous.
This is very dangerous guy, very dangerous player. I really like what this team is doing. The first season with their new OC last year, he had this team leading the conference in rushing. It's things like that from Buster Faulkner that's really good. And I think an X factor for this team, they have a new defensive coordinator. It's going to be Blake Gideon's first year as in DC. Recently was the secondary coach in Texas. Texas has had some really good defenses. They have some really good defensive lines, some really good secondaries as well. I mean, that Texas has been very stout on that side of the football the last few years. If he can dial it up as a DC, if he's just as good of a DC as he has been a secondaries coach, a defensive backs coach, this team is going to be tough. It's going to be nasty. So I really like Georgia Tech. I'm curious what your thoughts are about the Yellow Jackets.
No, I agree with you, Chris. We saw the season that they had a year ago. Look, they took down some of the teams that we thought were top level teams. We thought Florida State was a potential playoff team with DJ. That didn't happen. We thought, Miami. We thought that their road to the 12-team playoff was going to be easy by the way we had saw them the first several weeks of the season. Georgia Tech punched them in the mouth, and they were the reason that they ended up playing in the what was it?
Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Yeah, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Yeah. And we thought that these teams were top level teams, and week in and week out, Georgia Tech proved us all wrong. Hey, they almost took out Georgia.
Yeah.
Had they won that game, which they game winning what like 8 overtimes, we wouldn't even be talking about Georgia making it into the 12-team playoff against Notre Dame. That wouldn't have happened. So, yeah, I think that this team is a very dangerous team that people need to keep their eye on in the ACC next season. I know, like you said, there's a couple of teams that are worthy of getting into that 12-team playoff if everything falls into place. Myself included, I think some of these teams have an opportunity. Georgia Tech is definitely one of those teams, and yeah, I would bet some of my money to see these guys at Georgia Tech become one of those top 12 teams, because what Brent Key has done there in his first this will be his third year, but in 2 years it's pretty good. It's a great turnaround for Georgia Tech, and they needed that.
Sure, they definitely do. They need that, and I'm just looking at this team. Trent, I'll come back to Tech, but lastly, I don't want to mention it, but I'm just going to say so because you never know what can happen. It is college football.
Oh yeah,
Florida State. I don't think there'll be a team that competes for the playoff. You have so far up to go after going 2-10. But Florida State is a team that they need to make something shake. You have the pedigree of being Florida State. There's no way possible they're as bad as they were last year. I don't think everything will click for them to be right back in the playoff hunt. I'm just going to mention them real quick though. But all right, now that that's out the way, it just tastes so nasty to say because I really don't see it with them, but I just want to cover all of our bases, want to cover all the tracks.
No, that's all
Georgia
right.
Tech. Georgia Tech right now, preseason over under for their win total this season. 7.5, Kory. 7.5 wins. And when we look at their schedule, it seems very doable. You start the season off at Colorado.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, you got to play against Deion. Deion will have the guys ready, but if there's a time to play them, it's now because Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter are no longer there. So we're about to really learn a lot about Colorado now. We play Gardner Webb. That's a win. Personally, I favor Tech to beat Colorado. So it's 2-0. Then you play Clemson. That's going to be a tough one. But
You have to travel.
At least this game is in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? It's a home game. So you don't, like you said, you don't have to travel. That's going to be a big one, boy. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
Clemson might be desperate.
They might.
You go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, this is a tone-setting game for both teams. For both teams, it's not necessarily make or break. It's not one of those games per se, but it's definitely a game that definitely will help set the tone for the rest of your season. If you can win this game, depending on if it's Georgia Tech or Clemson, you have everything in front of you. You just got to seize that moment and take care of your business. This will be a great opportunity for both teams, whoever comes out of this game on top. That's all.
Huge. Clemson might be desperate just because they do play LSU to start the season.
Yeah. Imagine.
So they might already have a loss in their belt, and then you got to turn around and go to Tech. That's a tough draw. That's a tough draw. So if Clemson, if Tech messes around and beats Clemson, and you start the season 3-0, and I tell you that you don't have Miami, nor Florida State, nor for that for if you're keeping it going, Kory, you don't have Louisville on your schedule either. That's another sneaky team in the
Yeah,
ACC.
yeah. You can't count out Louisville.
You don't have them on your schedule. Look, man, everything opens up for you. You play Temple, you go to Wake Forest, you get Tech at home, Virginia Tech at home, team that can be pesky, but you get them at home. You go to Duke, you get Syracuse at home, a very well coached team, a team that has potential to be a difficult team. Won't be easy to beat, but you get that game at home. You go to NC State. We have yet to see it from NC State. They've been good at times, but I think that's another team that's probably going to be an average team in the league. Boston College, they lost their starting quarterback. Not sure what BC will bring to the table, but I think that's a very winnable game. You get Pitt at home, and then you play Georgia at Mercedes-Benz. I could see anything from 10-2, Kory, to 6-6. Um, but I truly think this team's ceiling is even 11-1. If you split the Clemson and Georgia games and you win everything else, I think you can go. You can have a season as great as 11-1.
Yeah, if you play your cards right, like you said, if you handle your business, I think you can have a pretty good year. A lot of teams on this list, I don't think if you can get through Clemson, I think everyone else, maybe Virginia Tech, maybe we'll see. I think you can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, NC
All
State
the way
is
up, all the
always
way
a
up to
toss up.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I think this can potentially be a great year for Georgia Tech if they can set the tone with that Clemson game and get that W. And
Yep.
if they can do that, I think they'll be just fine.
Which leads me to say this is our first preseason edition of doing this. This is a Bolton bet special. I'm telling y'all now, Georgia Tech regular season wins. If you go to it, it's sitting at the over 7.5. You lay down 115 to win 100. I'm not telling y'all how much to put on that, but I'm just giving you the odds. Uh, I like the over. I love the over. I think this is free money, Kory. Just being real. I don't see Georgia Tech not winning at least 8 games. There is the possibility that they go 7-5 or 6-6. I think that's the very worst, but I don't really see it happening. I think these boys are set to definitely win 8 games and potentially 10 or 11 if everything breaks perfectly the right way. But 8 games to me really is that fine balance of between all things go wrong and they're 6-6 and everything goes perfectly and they're 10-2 or 11-1. I think 8-4 is realistically where this team will fall, with me leaning towards a 9-3 or a 10-2 possibly in play.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, everything is in front of them to have a really good year. I mean, this is Brent Key's third year coming up, Chris. I think he's building something special there at Georgia Tech. The people there in Atlanta are excited about this team, and I don't see this team, taking their foot off the gas and just coasting when they have some guys coming back, of course, and just seeing what they did last season. I think this is an opportunity for them to really break that ceiling and showcase the committee coming up this year why they should be one of the top 12 teams. So I'm going to be looking. Me and you are going to be looking at Georgia Tech a lot this coming season because I think they could potentially be the SMU of the ACC this year, just like SMU was last year for the ACC. Mm-hmm. So it's like you said. I think they have some games that they can possibly win. If they go out there and perform well, and if they can do that, they can definitely set that tone, like I said, and showcase the country why they are one of those teams. So it's going to be interesting, man, for all of these teams out here. But in terms of the ACC, this is going to be an interesting year for the conference. And just seeing, you know, who is going to be consistent in terms of making sure that they can make that spot in. Did Florida State figure out anything after that abysmal season we saw? You know, is Dabo Sweeney, done playing nice with a lot of teams out there in the ACC, and just the country overall? Is he ready to lay his chips down on the table and show people, who Clemson is? Are they ready to, strike fear in a lot of people, just like in the old days of the Deshaun Watsons of the world? And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens with a lot of these teams, and it should be a great
one. Same.
Well, Chris, I appreciate this pre 12-team playoff outlook with the ACC conference. We're definitely not going to stop with this one. What's the next conference are we looking at right now? Of course, we'll definitely talk about it more, but what do you have on the horizon for the next?
Yeah. The next stop, we'll take a look at the Big Ten.
Okay. All right.
So we'll go to the Big Ten. After that we'll hit the Big 12, and then we'll put a bow on things with the good old it means more SEC.
Because it always means more, that's what the overlord Greg Sankey would tell you,
Exactly. It just means more. So we might have to have more than 5 teams for the SEC. In the Big Ten possibly as well. We'll see. But no, we'll hit the Big Ten next, which has proven itself as one of the top conferences in college football with back-to-back national champions coming out the Big Ten. So we'll take a look and see if they can maybe three-peat and have another team, win and represent for the league.
Maybe so. Maybe Oregon can kind of figure some things out, and really cement their name in as a college football national champion in the Big Ten. So
exactly. So we'll have that next up for you guys on the next episode.
Yeah, a little teaser for you all. So be sure to tune into that for sure, Chris. Well, before we head out of here, Chris, me and you had talked about it on the last episode. The BCS era. I was watching a very good video timelining the events of the BCS era, and me and you definitely have always kind of talked about the BCS era and some of our great moments, our favorite moments, and there's plenty of them. A lot of controversial moments of the BCS era, Chris. What were your thoughts about just that whole era of college football? A lot of people today you hear them. They miss the BCS era. They wish instead of us having this playoff committee with some of these biased committee leaders, of course. They wish we could just bring back the whole computer system and let the computer find out who's the best teams. I mean, look, we in a world of AI now, Chris, we can figure these things out, right?
Yeah, you right. You would think this is the time for the BCS to shine with the world of AI. So but yeah, man, I do myself. I look back at the BCS as a great time. That was the time, to be a college football fan. And we still love college football. That's not going anywhere anytime soon. But some of the matchups that we were given, there was some teams that were jobbed. I'm not gonna lie. Auburn. I know you guys felt like y'all should have been in there. That 2000 was it the 2003 team, Kory? The 2003 Auburn team, or was that 2004?
It may be.
I think it was the 2014.
Yeah,
it was the 2014. Because then the next year SC went up, and SC had played the next year. They were coming off a championship, and then Reggie Bush and them lost to Texas with Vince Young. So yeah, it was the 2004 team.
I'm looking.
That should have been in there instead of Oklahoma, I want to say.
Yeah.
But man, that was a time because we got some really good games. Like we got Oklahoma and Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl because of the BCS. Just an absolute classic matchup. We got Texas and USC in the Rose Bowl for national championship.
Great.
A game that you can watch that. You can put that on TV now, and I'm gonna still sit down and watch it as if it is 2005 or or January 1st, 2006.
Remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh man, I remember staying up as a kid. I wasn't supposed to stay up, but I stayed up. I found a way to. I found a way to watch the end of that game because that was that game, man. But it's so many matchups, and it was a little rough in the beginning. The BCS had its flaws; they continued to try to improve it. But overall, we got some really good games, and it made the regular season matter.
Yeah.
I think we're getting away from the regular season mattering as much as it did then. Like Texas and Ohio State at the shoe, at the horseshoe. That game meant everything.
Yeah.
That was a huge game. I remember that game. I remember Texas is really playing Ohio State at Ohio State? Like, this is crazy.
Imagine that game happening like this year. Just imagine UT and Ohio State, having a rematch from the college football playoff in regular season format.
That would be crazy. But it still wouldn't have the feel. Because we, in a sense, Kory, like being real, we got that this past season with Texas playing Michigan. Now, Michigan, granted, didn't hold up its end of the bargain of being that team that that they normally are. Right. But we got a powerhouse. We got Texas going into the big house, going into Michigan, and it wasn't crazy. So it didn't have that same effect, that same feel that game had. And this ain't nostalgia talking. This is being real, man. Regular season games meant more. We talk about it means more. It meant more back then, Kory.
Yes, it wasn't some cheap slogan that the SEC tries to bring amongst us. It literally meant more, not just for the SEC, but for all of college football. This is what we got. This was the creme de la creme of
Mhm.
college football with the BCS era, and things were a lot different then, of course, and the stakes were high, and yeah, you were right in 2004 with Auburn. That was the season where um, that was the Tommy Tuberville team where they were 13-0 and beat Virginia Tech
Mhm.
at the Sugar Bowl, 16-13. So, and that was a great team that they were ranked number 3 in the BCS. This was a undefeated team. That's
What
crazy.
what what came back to bite them was I think they played the Citadel in a non-con game, which is the non-conference schedule was too weak.
Yeah, and look at today now, Chris. We're still having these questions about, hey, you played the Citadel in like week 5. I don't think that. It's like, come on, like it's darn if you do, darn if you don't with the system today, as
Mhm.
opposed to what we got in the BCS era. It was a great
Mhm.
time. Hey, look, the Big Ten ruled it. Like the Big Ten was always at the top of the totem pole when it came to the BCS system. That's just the way it was. I'd say until the tail end of it, that was like the golden age of the SEC.
Mhm. Mhm.
Being you know being dominant as they were. Yeah, it was a great time, man. It was a great time, and it really does
Yeah.
show us a parallel, um, um, or complete difference in contrast of how the BCS worked then and what we see now with the college football playoff and the arguments that are placed.
I think truthfully the BCS could be in place now to pick the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, I
I
can
would
definitely
rather
see
the
that.
BCS instead of the committee.
Yeah, they can literally factor in everything, every stat, every win and loss, like all of that can still be factored in. And maybe you can have a committee for, I mean, I don't know, for something. Maybe not as major as trying to, um, figure out who are the top 12 teams. Because, at the end of the day, like now, it does come with its own bias. So, yeah, I definitely get where a lot of fans out there look at the BCS era and compare it to the now college football playoff era. I read a lot of comments on the video I watched in terms of what they see now with the system overall and the games we got, and just the whole um, construct of the college football season year in and year out was different. But that deals with a whole another can of worms that you know we have to deal with now. But the general aspect of what the BCS meant um, compared to now, it is viable.
Mhm. Mhm. No, you're right. It is. It is. Oh man, I'm just I'm just over here just reminiscing, brother. Just reminiscing.
Uh,
I I miss the BCS, man. I never thought I was going to. I would say this as a young, as a kid, but I'm saying it now. I miss the BCS. We're going to have to figure out something. We're going to have to get back to it. I'm being for real.
Yeah, no, it was a great time, Chris. I mean, like, looking back in the history of it, we got we got some of the best moments. Of course, we got because of that era, we got to see teams like Kansas State. Those Colin Klein days, of course. Kansas
Uh-huh.
State, a couple years within that system, were a force to be reckoned with. Not just them,
Hmm.
West Virginia. Some of these teams out here that you still see them today. Sometimes
Yeah.
they make a little buzz, but it's not nearly as what it used to be.
We did get the Pat White, Steve Slaton breakout party, against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, like these teams made a name for themselves. Yeah, the Marcus Johnsons of the world that played quarterback for Utah. And now being the quarterbacks coach for your reigning and soon to be defending Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles. You know, these guys were trendsetters with the BCS era. Yeah, it was a great time. Definitely a great time.
Good times indeed.
Yes, sir. So yeah, man. Yeah, it's definitely a great time to go back, blast in the past, and see a lot of those great games. And yeah, man, it's different now seeing this whole playoff system now work. Of course, a lot of people don't like it, but it is what we kind of have to deal with now. And it is what it is. So, is it always bad? I mean, sometimes they do figure it out. But sometimes you as the college football fan, Chris, and myself included, we just kind of think back at it, man. Like, hey, the BCS era had some things right. So
it did. But we'll just have to look back at it with rosy eyes and warm hearts, and make things aren't terrible right now. They aren't ideal. They aren't at its best, at its peak. But we're still going to enjoy what we have now. We love the sport, and just continue to look back fondly at the BCS era.
Absolutely, absolutely, my friend. And I said Marcus Johnson, Brian Johnson. Apologies to Brian Johnson. He's down there doing great work for the Eagles right now. Yeah, he was a big part of that BCS era with that Utah team. Then the head coach at the time, Urban Meyer, and right behind him, Dan Mullen. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Great moments.
Oh boy, man, they were producing them out there in Utah.
Yeah, they were, and they still are. I will not count out Coach Dillingham at all. Kenny Dillingham always has. He always has like the reverse Uno card.
That's a fair point. We can't count them out. That is a program. It is a program that is well established.
Yeah. So be a team that will maybe definitely look back on before we do our next show, and kind of see where they're at. But yeah, overall, great era of the BCS, and now we're in the playoff era. So we'll definitely see what happens going forward with this new iteration of figuring out who's top dog in college football.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Well, Chris, another great episode, sir. Always appreciate us talking college football. Even though we're in the off season, we're always finding great topics to talk about to the great audience out here that we have. So it's always fun that we can do this during the off season as well as in season as well. So we got a lot of great stuff coming down the pipeline for y'all. So be sure to stay tuned. But before we get out of here, Chris, outros, let the good people know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, you can find me on X at Chris_Bolton_12. Holla at your boy. and also on Instagram at Chris.Bolton_. This is a great time. Wrestling's on point. UFC's lit. Wrestling is amazing, man. Just seeing heel John Cena, it just warms my heart. I mean, this is great stuff, Kory. This is amazing stuff that we're witnessing right now.
Look, I know he said it, Chris, but I just gotta say it. I gotta reenact what he said. You get nothing, okay? You don't get new music. You getting nothing. I love it.
Nada. Oh man. So yeah, this is lit. March Madness, baseball's back. The draft's coming up. This is NBA's playoffs on the horizon. This is just it's amazing. So yeah, boxing's lit. So you'll see me on X talking about all of that. So tap in with us.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, boxing's lit. Who knows, Chris? We might get that boxing match between the one King LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith.
Oh Lord.
Look, all I gotta say, I think this whole thing is an experiment by the NBA to get people ready for the playoffs. I would not recuse myself from making that into a potential tactic for the fans of the NBA.
It's crazy. It feels like an experiment. Yeah, I don't know how it got to this point, but it's gotten to this point. But yeah, it would be curious to see what the odds would be for that boxing match if that was to ever occur. But we do got some good real fights on the horizon, especially to start the month of May. So yeah, it's a great time to just be a sports fan, Kory. Things are looking good.
Yeah, everything's on the up and up right now. So yeah, man, it's definitely a great time to be a sports fan, following sports. Like I said, this is the sweet spot of of the year. We get all of these great sports out here and great moments to definitely watch and then indulge ourselves in. So yeah, man, it's great. But yeah, Chris, we appreciate you on being on the show as always, folks. If you want to find me on social media as well, you can find me on X at Listen to KSW, all one handle. I'm on there talking all different sports, of course, professional wrestling, college football, news, NBA, college baseball is going on, and MLB and everything. So definitely follow me on there. But
yes, sir.
Yeah, folks. Yeah, but as always, we appreciate you guys listening to the show. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It's definitely important for Chris and I. And also follow us on our TikTok account as well. We'll definitely be uploading some brand new content for you all, and for you guys to partake in. And so definitely feel free to share that out to your friends. We're always looking to get more engagement with the show as well. So be sure to be tuned into that. But until next time, guys, I'm Kory Willis. He's Chris Bolton. You are listening to the Breakdown Sportscast. We will chat with y'all later. Peace.
Peace.